Hello, hello. It is time for another live. I am ready. I'm sitting here in my office and I have the books I think we'll be talking about. So I'm hoping that's gonna work okay. I got a drink. Got a drink. And I am ready to chat. I'm hoping you guys have some questions for me. I haven't really prepared anything this time because I don't have a book launching at the moment, but I had a crazy wild trip. Hi Charity. Hi Marissa. Hi everyone. I had a crazy wild trip over in Ireland and then Scotland. It was fabulous. I had a really good time. I ate a lot. There was a lot of food. And yeah, it was a good trip. I recommend Edinburgh. If you are heading over to that part of the world, that is a fantastic city. It's got a great food scene these days. It's really charming and fabulous. Yeah, I can't recommend it highly enough. The castle's amazing, but also it's just like, it's got intensely cool architecture in Edinburgh because it has this medieval castle, and then it's like a former Viking site, and then there's crazy Georgian like crescents as if you're in Bath or something. It's a really awesome city. Recommend Edinburgh. Unless you're super into it, I don't recommend Edinburgh during Fringe, which is the month of August. I would just avoid that month if I were you. But other than that, it's a pretty good time. Thank you, Ty. Ty has shared this video with the group, so hopefully members of the Parasol Protectorate group can see the video as well. So I was just planning on doing mostly Q&A today. It's September. Can you believe how fast this year has gone? Like, madness. So it's September, and the next thing that I have coming out is the Meet Cute. Now, we announced the Meet Cute, which is fan service, the special edition. We announced this, at the beginning of the year, sometime, a really long time ago. And it's a special edition from Subterranean. So this is an advanced reader copy, an uncorrected proof. So this is what the cover will look like, but it will be this style of book with the hardcover. So it'll be this style of book, and they will be numbered. Anyway, so we announced this puppy, and we announced it so early because we thought it would take a while to sell out, and it's sold out within like 2 weeks because you are amazing. So that's the next thing that's coming out, but there are no more available. It's sold out. So I was planning on talking about it and doing blog posts about it and like promoting it, but that seems mean at this juncture because you can't buy it because it's sold out. So what I'm going to tell you now is, yes, if you order it, you're getting it. Everything's great. It's going to be fabulous. I'm really excited to be, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be cool because Subterranean did such a great job with the previous one. And as Ty has asked, thank you, Ty, for spearheading this question, yes, there will be a digital version of this, of the short story that's the exclusive to this. Now, the digital version, which will be via me, so it will come out on all the platforms, there'll be a PDF, you can buy it directly from my website, all that good stuff. That story, the Meet Cute short story, which is the hedgehog incident, where Alexia and Connell meet for the first time, that won't be available until early spring of next year. So right now I'm thinking February, and I'll have more concrete dates for you. And then, meanwhile, what I am going to try to do, and this is always a try with audio, is I'm going to try to get the audio recording of the short story up and available in Audible for as a Christmas present for you. So I figure, you might listen to it while you're doing the dishes or getting ready for the holidays or driving or what have you. So that's the current idea, is that the audio is going to come in December, hopefully, and then the digital version of the short story that's the exclusive to this will eventually come out in spring of next year. So something a little different. It's just a matter of getting the cover art together and getting it all ready, but I think I can make those too. And like I said, the Cheer Up, the newsletter, should have like concrete dates as soon as I know them, but that's kind of what you're looking for. Yeah, the audio's fun. Emma has done the audio, so Emma's done a bunch of my recordings before. She did Romancing the Inventor and How to Marry a Werewolf. So she's doing the voice for the audio version of the Meet Cute short story. So yeah, that's my hope. I hope I can tide you over with a little audio in the interim while the digital is getting ready. And the digital for Valentine's Day, very good, Marissa. Maybe we'll try to go for a Valentine's Day release. That would be ideal for a hedgehog incident. Right. So that's the only kind of upcoming news I have to start us off with. So Reticence launched into the world, and so far as I can tell, you guys are pretty pleased with it. Hooray for that. Lexi wants Enforcer Enigma news, so I'm writing that one next. I just came back from a little like mini retreat up in the mountains, and I'm working on the edits for the Dimity novella right now, which is coming out in May of next year, and I started to have some inspiration and ideas for the Enforcer Enigma book, so that's what I'll be writing next. So I'm gonna finish the Dimity novella editing and everything and put that into production, and then I'll start writing the Enforcer Enigma, which is the third San Andreas book. So that's the current plan, and for my writing for the rest of this year, and then it goes into production. So I will bring the Enforcer Enigma out either in summer or fall of next year. I have dropped all the previous San Andreas books in like October, November, so I might do the same with Enforcer Enigma, and that's because my nonfiction, The Heroine's Journey, is out right now with my agent, and I'm not quite sure what's going on with that, so I'm kind of leaving myself some wiggle room with the middle to second half of next year to know what's going on with that. That's the kind of book that I would need to go like on the road and promote it if it does get picked up by the right publisher. So, or I'm going to just publish it myself. We haven't figured it out yet. So my agent will let me know what she thinks is the best way to go with it. All right, pause on the questions. I'm going to scroll back and see what we got. Karen asks about the meat coot. So Karen, I answered your question on that one. Ty asked the same question. Right, so we answered that question. Audio version is answered. I'm glad we've dealt with all the meet cute stuff up front. And Ty wants to know if Sid, this is very obscure, but Ty wants to know if Sid knows about the Preternatural in Scotland. Yes, I imagine that they do know about each other. I haven't written about him. I might. That would be interesting to write a different soulless character. And I said he was in the north. I don't know that he's necessarily in Scotland. He might be, Manchester or something. He's there if I need him is really the answer to that question. Yvette wants to know if there are books about Formney flutes. So I have talked about, so right now on my blog, if you go to my website and go to the author blog, I have a list of all of the projects that I could write right now. In other words, there are 16 different projects that I've had ideas about and I could write or not. And you can vote for your favorite if you'd like to. I won't necessarily write that, but you're welcome to. I am swayed by people's opinions. So you can go over there and vote if you like. When the live is over, of course. And so one of those options is to write a series of short but tied together stories about Alessandro. And if I did that, flute would be in that series. So, no concrete plans to write about flute particularly, but he's basically like the sidekick / he could even be the point of view character. Although my initial ideas for Alessandro were actually from Alessandro's point of view. So, yeah, so flute would appear in those serialized little books / shorts, whatever they would be. I don't know. They're just a twinkle in my eye right now, if I decided to write them. One of the reasons I've been kind of reluctant to do Alessandro is he's an anti-hero. He's not a super nice guy. And of course we all know what happens to him, and that I don't tend to write that dark. But it's an option, like I said. It's one of the blog posts. Rach wants, pardon, did she say nonfiction? I did say nonfiction. I've talked about this a little bit in the Cheer Up and a little bit elsewhere, but I just when I'm presenting and when I'm at conventions and stuff, I talk about the heroine's journey a lot, which is distinctly different from the hero's journey, and has its own kind of archetypes and tropes and patterns, and a lot of writers use these subconsciously, and they're nested in mythology. I've studied it, I write it, I'm very passionate about the heroine's journey, but there isn't a solid guidebook out there on the subject. There's plenty on the hero's journey, and Campbell's kind of bagged that corner of that market, but no one's written anything on the heroine's journey that isn't like a Jungian psychological analysis, which is not the direction I'd be interested in. So I'm interested in how the heroine's journey appears in novelization, but also in pop culture, television, movies, that sort of thing. And so I wrote a book about it. I've been doing a presentation for craft workshops for my fellow writers for about 1.5 years now, and I finally just decided to write the book because I kept talking about it, and then people would say, "Ooh, where's the book on that so I can go read more about it?" And there wasn't one. And so I was like, well, she who sees the problem is responsible for the solution, so I wrote the book. Nonfiction is not comfortable for me, but I did it. It's out to a bunch of alpha readers right now. Other authors who are telling me like what I need to add more of and what I should change and stuff. But it's written, it's not dry. I really tried to make it accessible for people. I really tried to use examples that are current and in the zeitgeist right now. Yeah, it should be fun to read. I use silly stories and it's funny, and like I'm trying to make it a pleasant reading experience, a non-fiction book that's a pleasant reading experience, but also full of like useful information, and not just for authors, but also for you, for readers, because hopefully it will help you identify what it is about books that you love. I think a lot of readers gravitate to the heroine's journey and don't even realize that that's what they're gravitating towards, and what is it about that they find so appealing. So we'll see if anyone's interested in publishing it. My agent was really excited about it. She doesn't represent nonfiction, so who knows? But she's gonna see if anyone's interested in it. But even if no one's interested in it, I'm just gonna publish it myself because I'm tired of having to disappoint people who want this book and it's just not being out there. So it'll be there, it'll be around, and I would really like it to happen next year. I think it needs to happen sooner rather than later, so that's my idea. Ty wants to know if I have an opinion on a ship name for Aggiehead. Nope. Yeah, it's something aggro-ish. They're gonna be so grumpy together. But you guys can kick it around and come up with something. And Ty wants to know why Aggiehead and not a new character. I don't know. I just really liked the idea of the two of them. I thought that I thought two, grumpy old farts together was a great, like, I've always joked with various girlfriends in my life that what we're gonna do is just end up together wearing, like, huge purple hats, like, sitting on a front porch, grumbling at the neighborhood children and, throwing food at them or what have you. That's my future. So I just kind of wanted to give that to Sidhek. Although there's a whole pack that they have to look after as well, but really they're just gonna like sit on the proverbial front porch of their castle and be grumpy at everybody. That's a great future. Don't we all want that future? I want that future. Marissa wants to know about Camp Residual. So that was just a really fun idea I had. It's one of for those of you who've read the blog post, it's one of the options in the blog post. I love this. So it's called Camp Residual because the idea is that it's sort of a summer camp for people who have supernatural ancestry, but like not a much of it. So they don't have like really cool powers or anything. So for example, if you have like mermaid in your past, you can sing really, really well, but only in the shower. you can't sing well anywhere but the shower, and you get like really scaly skin, so you might have like super bad eczema, you know, and your hair goes green really easily, you know, that kind of thing. It's just amused me to come to like write about people who have heritage. Like, let's say you have leprechaun heritage, you just want all of the camp badges, all of them, every single badge. You know, and if you have like city or like uncity, like high elf heritage, you're just like super stalker. Just like nobody wants to date them because they never let you go. That kind of thing. It just amused me, the idea of writing a bunch of like camp counselors at this camp for kids with with like leftover powers that are just not particularly useful but really hilarious. Catherine wants to know about Tasha pre-Custard novella. So, that would be fun. It's not one of the options, but it would be really fun to write about the werecats, like pre-disappearance, earlier on in time, and you know that could be wrapped into like a Zenobia book or something. That would be great fun to write about. A bunch of badass lady werecats running around the desert, taking names. That'd be really cool. Wade wants to know if I have any information on TV, Netflix, anything like that. No, not at the moment. So I had a option for television, and they were developing it, and then something happened with the writer that they got on board, and it just kind of all fell apart, which is not uncommon in Hollywood, frankly. So the option lapsed. So they had it optioned for about 7 years, the Parasol Protectorate series, which kind of translates to the whole Parasol verse world, because you kind of, when you sell an option, you sell the rights to the world, not really the rights to the story, which explains a lot about how television works. So that's lapsed, and I have an enthusiastic agent. She's been trying to pitch out to animation studios and stuff like that. I don't know. Who knows? I've had some interest at a telephone call with a very excited showrunner who was really into the books and super enthusiastic about it, and I thought he was great, but I had terrible food poisoning at the time. I'm not sure I acquitted myself very well on that phone conversation. But this is the way Hollywood works, you know, like, I don't know how things get made, honestly. There's a great book on the subject, actually, called Sleepless in Hollywood, which just talks about, like, what a crazy world it is and how hard it is to get anything made. But, yeah, nothing to tease, I'm afraid, because nothing's happening. And I would tease if there were. Ty wants to know if I saw Captain Marvel and how that, presumably how that pertains to the heroine's journey. Yes, and I actually write about it in the book. Captain Marvel is a buddy cop drama, essentially. And both it and Black Panther are doing very interesting things with both the hero and the heroine's journey. They have a little bit of each in them. And so I talk about them as kind of weird exceptions to the general rule that most things will comfortably, a lot of stuff comfortably fits into either the hero or the heroines. Captain Marvel doesn't really, but yeah, I enjoyed it immensely. I like Captain Marvel, I think, better than a lot of other movies I've seen recently, including Wonder Woman. I preferred it to Wonder Woman. Rach says autocorrect is killing him. Yes, autocorrect kills me every day. It is my nemesis. Rach is excited about the heroine's journey. Thank you. I hope you guys don't mind me deviating out of fiction for a little while. I promise I won't leave it forever. I couldn't. I have to write fiction. It's in my bones. But I also apparently had to write at least one nonfiction piece because no one else was doing it. So it's my responsibility. Right. I'm glad you guys like the idea of some of my other projects. I hope I'll be able to write them someday. This is the thing. It's one of the reasons I did the blog post is like I have so many things I could write. There's just not enough hours in the day. I am pulling back. I pulled back, in case you didn't notice, I pulled back quite a bit from doing events this last year, and it worked for me really well. I love doing events, but not having as many kind of saved my reserves of energy. And it looks like just by chance I'm pulling back from doing events next year as well. It'll be just lower key in general. So hopefully the speed of my fiction writing won't be impacted at all by having to break for nonfiction for a little bit. Sally just got off work. Hello, Sally. Animation would be fun. Yeah, I think it would be one of the problems with my stuff is that it's very expensive to adapt because of all the CGI and all the historicalness and all of the costumes, right? It all adds up to a lot of money. Animation is one way to avoid that. Although I wouldn't mind if it was like a cheesy K drama, like, who cares? So long as the humor is not lost, right? Bella, you're asking a question about Zenobia and the Death Reigns of Swansea. I don't see how those coexist, but... Oh, is there anything I would have said in the last live about either of those things? No, I don't think so. Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter on the Parasol verse spoilers group about Zenobia, and I should say that Tesheret is not related to her in any way. That last epilogue in Reticence isn't meant to hint at that. Sorry, there are other werecats. So yeah, and the other werecats are not addressed. So Lyle and Akeldama's relationship. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm sure there is good backstory. I mean, they've both been around and sort of behind the scenes for a really long time. It might leak into one of the Claw and Courtship books. If it's going to show up, it's going to show up there. And honestly, Lord Akeldama shows up all the time. So if he needs to, he'll come into one of those books. He always, Lord Akeldama is just always there. I'm glad some of you agree with me that they prefer Captain Marvel to Wonder Woman. Lexi wants to know if I'll be at Emerald City Comicon. Tell them to invite me. They had me one year and I had a wonderful time. So if they will have me back, I will come back. It's not only is it easier, but it's like a gesture of goodwill when a convention at least covers my accommodations, if not flight as well. It just means that if they're going to spend a little bit of money on you, it means they're going to put you on more stuff at the convention, and they're going to make sure that you get, you get on panels and stuff, rather than me just showing up, which frankly I might do for Emerald City because I do like it a lot. But if you guys bother your local Comic-Con or whatever to get me, that's how it happens. That's how they spend. I mean, they do have the money to spend on bringing authors in. So if you, it doesn't have to be me either. If you have another favorite author that you really want to be brought to your local event, whatever that is, make a fuss about it, because they do listen to the attendees. They really do. They're there to serve you, and so most Comic-Cons and conventions take it seriously that they want to make you happy. Especially where authors are concerned, because, authors don't have a lot of money. So a sensible Comic-Con is more likely to spend some money flying in an author than anybody else. Although some of us, are also not a good draw, so the event has to take those sorts of things into account. But yes, I love Emerald City, love to come back to Emerald City. I had a wonderful time last time I was in Seattle. I came in, arbitrarily in January, and, 120 people showed up for a random signing. Didn't have a book launch, nothing. So, yeah, Seattle, I love you. You rock my world. Brittany is excited to see me at Gaslight. For those of you in the San Diego area, Gaslight is going to be a blast. I just got my schedule, and it's going to be so much fun. I have a really busy schedule, so if you are coming to San Diego for this event, you will get to see me a lot. And I am talking about a lot of archaeological stuff, because the theme is Egypt. So I'm super excited about it. It's going to be a great event. And I've done this event before, and I've worked with these showrunners before, and they're really awesome, and I love San Diego, so it's going to be a good time. Wade has a really fun question. This is cool. Compliments me, saying that I have an ability to build worlds. Thank you very much. I love that. Is there a totally outrageous idea that I keep putting aside? Yes, there is. It's the Bandit Lands. So the Bandit Lands is a sort of high fantasy. I call it techno fantasy world that I developed. The concept is a little bit like Pern. So it is a post planetfall alternate world where there is magic, but magic is a kind of nanotechnology. It's just that the people who use it don't realize it anymore. They've lost the understanding of the technology that they use. I've always loved Clark's any technology sufficiently advanced is indiscriminable from magic, right? I've always loved that quote. And so I wrote this, I conceived this whole world. And the world is almost like the nanotech has formulated singularities and such, and it's kind of running experiments on human history and human past. And so you have these different cultures with different kinds of governments and ruling bodies and social structures next to each other that didn't exist in our human history, but do exist on this kind of alternate fantasy world. And so it would be things like kind of ancient Egypt is right next to medieval Japan, is right next to Renaissance Italy, is right next to Roman Empire kind of idea. So yeah, it's sort of this big cerebral, historical, techno-fantasy, very complicated magical system concept that I have been tinkering with for a really long time and I love, but just has never worked. So I've written a couple of young adult books set in the world, and they just aren't good enough. I have other ideas for young adult books. I have an idea for an adult book. And then I, submitted one of the young adults recently, and my agent basically was like, this could be you could downplay and focus on one aspect of this world in terms of the complexity, and it would make a great middle grade. So that's the Animec one. If you go over to the blog post, that's what I'm talking about. That would be in this universe. So it's just, it's a fun universe and I'm super excited about it, but I haven't figured out the story approach to it. And until I have a story that's good, that works well for this world, I'm not writing it, right? I'm DMing it. Like I'm creating a world for a computer game or something, right? I'm not an author in the world yet. So yeah, that's the big unconquerable beast. But it's living there in the back of my brain. And occasionally I get excited about it and try and figure something out, and then it fails me again. So it might be something for ways in the future. Dustin says, bummed not to see more Arsenic and Percy, and that Reticence was their favorite Custard Protocol. Thank you! I am so glad. I know it's rare for me in the series to do a one book, one main, or one, two only main character thing. But I am very, very grateful that it worked for you. You might see more of them. I just won't write them as a point of view. I don't think anything's possible, really, but I have no intention at this juncture. Hello, Stein. You are late to the party, but you're still here. You're researching dark matter. So, for those of you who are into the Tinkered Stars stuff, Crudrat, which is the YA that's in the same Tinkered Stars universe as Fifth Gender, has a bunch of dark matter. I had to do a ton of dark matter research for that book, but the science is probably slightly out of date now because I wrote it about 10 years ago. Yvette wants to know how much I enjoyed writing Arsenic and Reticence. The wee! That was really fun. Yes. So, this is a tiny bit of a spoiler, but there is a moment where there is a jumping from great heights, and then Arsenic, my character, in that particular scene goes wee, which is me. I love heights. I always have. I was always found like climbing up trees and stuff like that as a kid. I think that's one of the reasons I write books set in dirigibles way up high. I really love heights. Genuinely love it. And I did indoor skydiving. I have never done actual skydiving. I would love to, but I haven't yet. But I have done indoor skydiving, and they take a photograph of you when you're doing the inverse skydiving thing, and the pic, like, you have never seen a bigger shit-eating grin on somebody's face than is on my face when I am doing skydiving, apparently. I have the biggest grin. I am so happy. So yes, I was definitely channeling my own adoration of, of being up high and basically flying when I wrote that line. It was really fun to write. Time wants to know about creating Arsenic. Was it fun? It really was fun. I love doing that. So I love doing exactly what Ty says, which is writing the sort of fish out of water character who, so you all are familiar with this cast of eccentrics that I put on the Spotted Custard, and then to have an outsider come in and integrate and have opinions on them and the way they interact and the way they behave, but also to have her be like, oh my god, my people! Like, I found my people! It was just such a joy to write. Yeah, I really love that. I love the fish out of water thing. And it was super fun to write. Obviously, I like writing science characters. I've done that a lot in the novellas so far. But it was nice to put a sort of a science-ly minded character as a main POV character into one of the series. Yeah, she was a blast. I love her. Super fun to write. Although, I'm kind of squicked out by sort of medical things and stuff, so, like, I am not that kind of scientist myself. There's a reason that I didn't do forensic archaeology. I did inorganic archaeology, but it was fun to write her. I'm glad you appreciated seeing the threads as well. Like, Reticence is one of those books that I can't recommend to people who, from outside the Parasolvers, because it does tie up so many things, and there are so many cameos and, like, look-ins from favorite characters and stuff that I'm like, yeah, don't by all means, do not start with Reticence. It is not that book. Danielle says, my 10-year-old loved the first Finishing School book and wondered what books you like best. I liked best at that age. So that's what authors call middle grade, generally speaking. So the first Harry Potter book, the tenor of that book and the age of that book is technically pretty middle grade. As the Harry Potter books progress, they get more young adult, and they were marketed as young adult. I feel like the Finishing School is sort of similar. So the first of the Finishing School books is essentially pretty middle grade, just in terms of, like, the humor and the language use and the age of the characters and stuff. And then as it progresses, it gets more young adult. So what you're talking about with middle grade is also called chap books or chapter books. And so for me, one of my mainstay picks is pretty old school, but it's still a favorite of mine, which is The Ordinary Princess by MMK, Kaye. Fantastic little middle grade book. Just a joy to read. I really, really loved that one. Still reread that. I would say Dealing with Dragons by Patricia Reedy is, if she liked the first Finishing School books, she'll like that one as well. Might be a scotch older, but I think it's more middle grade than YA. But yeah, I don't read a lot of mid-grade. You know what? Cat Incorrigible is fantastic. You should try that with her. So that's like Regency with magic, only it's a girl who has magical abilities, and she runs away from home and disguises herself as a boy. Has adventures, that's all she wants. Cat, Incorrigible. It's by Stephanie Burgess. Stephanie also has a dragon series, The Chocolate Dragon, which is about a girl dragon who accidentally becomes a human and learns how to be a chocolatier. It's just charming. So yeah, there's some middle grade options to try, and you don't have to have a kid who's 10 to read some good mid grade. There are some fun middle grade books out there right now. So there, I've given you three recommendations. I'm a little behind you guys on the comments, so slow on your questions for a second so I can get caught up. Charlotte wants to know if we're ever going to learn details about supersaturation. Yes, you will learn at least more details about supersaturation. So there is one character there's a couple of characters in the San Andreas series who have lived through Supersaturation, and you now know, if you've read Reticence, which character that definitely is. But there is also one of the werewolves, and I, talk about him being older, and that's Judd, and he's also been through it. So, and the next book, which is the Enforcer Enigma, is Judd and Colin's book, and part of kind of Judd's psyche and what will play into his story is he kind of has a bit of PTSD and kind of recovery from having lived through saturation. So you will at least get it from his perspective, which should give more information on what happened. And also, he has the language to know how things were before saturation. So you'll also learn a little bit about how, being a werewolf changed and pack dynamics and stuff. After from before saturation to after saturation, from his perspective. And at least that's what I intend to do. Haven't written this book yet, so hopefully you should definitely learn at least something more. Annie wants to know about my lipstick. I was prepared for this question. I think it is, I'm so glad that I could help you with more red lip days, but I'll do it again. It doesn't have the end piece on it, but this is the lipstick I am currently wearing. It is Superstay 24 by Myabelline. I think it's Myabelline. Just a cheap drugstore lipstick, and this is 25. 025 is always the number, which is flame or something. That's what I'm wearing. But yeah, Colors Day lipsticks are the bomb. Love my red lipstick. Wade says one of Anna Quindlen, what a cool last name. One of her writing tips for a fan was, ooh, I can't see the recipe. There we go. Never finish the last sentence when you finish writing for the day. Is there a tip that I think would be a great takeaway for aspiring writers that I have? Sure. My biggest tip, which I've said before, but I will say it again, I will never stop saying it, is you're not allowed to edit anything but what you wrote the day before. So you can't go back and edit that first chapter over and over and over again. The only thing you can do is reread what you wrote yesterday and then write the next section. And that is the advice I give because I find a lot of writers are perfectionists, and what they want to do is just keep rewriting that first chapter, and that's the death knell. You're never going to finish, and the goal is to finish. That's all that matters, is finishing the book. The hardest part, for me anyway, is the raw writing of the rough draft, and so I have to use every trick in the book to push myself to finish it, and I am a perfectionist. So one of the tricks I use is I can't go back. If I have something that I know I need to fix, I just need to write a comment or make a note, or if I have something I need to look up, I just put a TK in, and I just keep writing, because the most important thing is to get the words down and to keep going until you finish your first draft. And to do that, you can't keep editing. You can't edit as little as possible when you're writing your first draft. There's my piece of advice. So there's a comment here about loving Arsenic and wanting more of the Custard Protocol and more of the group, and that's possible. I don't think it's likely. I feel like they're off on their own and doing their thing. I mean, I could write more adventures for them probably, but at the moment I don't feel inclined to do that, and I'm just like super lucky to be at a point in my career, and I'm pretty fiscally reserved, so I've saved a lot of money over the years. So like, unlike most authors, I'm able to make some choices, whimsical choices, you could say. I don't have to take another contract with a big publisher if I don't really want to, and if I'm not really excited about the project. So I'm super, super lucky that that's the place I am in my life. But that means that if I don't feel like writing it, I'm probably not going to. And right now, I don't feel like writing anymore in the Custard Protocol. Ty wants to know if Ms. Trickle is pre or post saturation. Our Kelpy. I don't know. She strikes me as rather old, but she's also very, like, I don't know, superior and elitist and reserved and bossy. So I don't know that if she would reveal any information about it. Lexi wants to know what AB stands for. Wahaha. It's just adorable baby. Or adorable babe. It's just my moniker. Shawn wants to say thank you for the great characters. Oh, thank you, Shawn. Very kind. Thanks for showing up for the live. Yes, good. Just mutual admiration. Cool. That looks like I think I've reached the end of the comments for the moment. So we have 20 more minutes. If you have any additional questions, I'm gonna drink a little bit while you think of anything else you want to know. Yeah, I love creating fabulous, lovable characters. It's my favorite thing. Charity says when we'll get more Custard Protocol when it's a television show, and yeah, sure, absolutely, you will. Ty wants to know if there were any characters, presumably in the Custard Protocol, that I wanted to write about and didn't. I would definitely have liked to have written more Spoo. Spoo having a point of view in Reticence was super unexpected for me. I just needed a third POV on board the ship, I realized, because I was swapping POV between Percy and Arsenic, and then both of them left the ship. And then I was like, shoot, I need someone still on the ship, so I'm going to use Spoo. And I really enjoyed writing her. I liked her voice a lot, I liked her character, so I would have enjoyed, I think she would be one of the ones that I would like to write more of. There and Virgil, like there are quite a few characters, Tasheret, like they're definitely sort of Anitra side character, even Rodrigo side characters on board who didn't get as much face time as I maybe would have hoped, because of the tenor of the plot and the story. So yeah, but that, I mean, I might pick them up someday. Who knows? Lexi lights my little head thing. Thank you, Lexi. It's just a little turban from Amazon. I love them. And, you know, the picture shows it worn, like, directly on the top of your head, but I've actually taken to wearing it off to the side because it looks kind of 1930s or something. So, yeah, I've fallen in love with little turbans. They make me very happy. Bella's following Ty's question up with any plot ideas that I thought about writing but didn't. Oh. That's an interesting question. I don't know. They're definitely, like, Reticence, definitely when I pitched it, this happens all the time, right? So when you're pitching books, at least I always am pitching two in a series, it's just the way my publisher does it. So I pitched Competence and Reticence together, and that means that I had to write a plot summary for Competence and then a plot summary for Reticence. And I had a pretty good idea on the plot for Competence, but I didn't have a great idea on the plot for Reticence, so whatever I wrote to pitch it out is not what ended up in this book. So it does happen a lot where I have some storyline or some plot idea that I completely abandon. But I'm afraid I can't think of any off the top of my head because I abandoned them. But sure, there's some, hanging out places. I'm glad you guys liked Spoo. There's definitely calls for more Spoo. I'm glad you could, like, I just throw ideas out and somebody's like, yes, I want to read that thing. This is what I mean by doing this blog post I did recently where I was like, I have a lot of ideas, sort of endlessly drowning in ideas. How's that? Wade says, my book covers are always recognizable. Could I talk a little bit about how that kind of came into the brand? So the Solace, which was the first book cover, was a kind of an opportune thing to happen. was at the beginning of the second waves of steampunk, which include the fashion and the gathering side of steampunk. The first wave of steampunk was all literary. The second wave included, you know, music and style and devices and all sorts of stuff, creativity, crafting. And I was following a bunch of different fashion blogs on LiveJournal back in the day. And Donna, who's my cover model, posted that image of her holding the parasol. And I just sent it to my publishing house. I just said, hey, like, this is kind of what I'm thinking about for the cover of Soulless. Like, this is sort of what Alexia kind of looks like. This is the look of steampunk, because they didn't know what steampunk was. And it turned out they went and bought that cover, or they bought that image from Donna, and that became the iconic Soulless cover for that sort of made my career, really. And they've pretty faithfully stuck to that in the various different series. So Soulless had its run, all with Donna on the cover, and then the Finishing School kind of took that and, you know, flipped it a bit, so the background is color and the character is black and white, so it looks a little bit more secretive, a little bit more spy-like, obviously, and gave it the wallpaper look. But again, tied it. And that's just my traditional publishing houses. They basically essentially gave me a cover brand, which fortunately for me, since I'm very tapped into the steampunk community, is easy to imitate for my novellas and stuff. I'm like, yeah, she looks kind of like, I know her. She's in a photo shoot. She looks kind of like that character. Can I buy that image from you? You know, I just approach my, you know, friends and acquaintances in the steampunk community to get cover art myself. And that's how my indie covers come to be. And they can pretty closely kind of stay in the same oeuvre. Yeah, and it's fortunately for me relatively easy to imitate for indie books, and so I've stuck with it. Although that said, like I do love what they're doing with, you know, the sort of more old school cameo cover styles. You know, I really think that's pretty awesome looking as well. So, and that's a different brand for me. But there's definitely a reason that I did sort of different style of covers for the GL books, for the San Andreas books and stuff, and that's to make sure that people knew that we were heading into a different universe and a different style of writing and more sex and stuff like that. So I do think about these things in terms of cover. Just yes, Ty says that Spoo would make a fun YA mid-grade, and that's definitely true. The difficulty with Spoo is making her as distinctive as possible from Sophronia. So she would need a whole kind of different journey and different attitude. And right now they're a little too similar. And I don't want to just rehash kind of the same thing I've already written. And I don't really have a good idea for what happens to Spoo and what kind of adventures she has going forward. So that would need to happen before I wrote it. Charity has a very funny story in the comments about being the Omega for their store. That's very funny. Sorry. You guys need to check the comments for that. Hi, Angelica. How are you doing, darling? We're actually about to wind up soon, so any final questions on anything before we rehash? I can rehash for a little bit. So we talked a little bit about the Meet Cute coming up. Keep an eye to the chirp for the actual dates. But so the special edition is coming out. It is sold out, so you can't get it, but it is coming out in October. And then for Christmas, I'm going to bring out the audio of the exclusive short story that's in here, and I will bring out the digital edition for that in the spring, early spring of next year, or at the beginning of next year. So that's what's going on with that, and I will have dates for you. The only date I can't announce concretely is the audiobook date, and that's because they don't let you do that. You have to upload it and then go through a quality control process, and so you kind of don't know when the book actually drops in audio, but I will let you know as soon as I do. And that was pretty much the only important stuff that you might have missed. Charity wants to know when I will post my event listings for next year. Honestly, my dear, I don't have any. Yeah, nobody's put in for a convention for me, any, thing that I can really announce yet for next year. So either everyone's leaving last minute or nobody wants me at a con. So right now I really don't have anything I'm doing. What I will probably do is go to World Fantasy next year. I just found out that it's in Salt Lake, and I've never been to Salt Lake, and I know I have at least some fans there, so I'm thinking of maybe doing World Fantasy next year. But I'm not sure on that one, and that's not until November. So I honestly just don't have any events worth announcing yet. As soon as I have events to announce, I will put them on the events page. Shawn wants to know if I have plans for other books in the San Andreas series. So yes, I talked a little bit about at the beginning, but the Enforcer Enigma is next. I haven't written it yet, but it is the next rough draft that I will be writing. So I will know more when I'm writing it, and that should be the end of this. So not this month. I'm working on the edits for the Dimity novella, which comes out in the spring of next year. And then I will be writing the Enforcer Enigma after that. So October, November, December, January kind of thing, I should be writing the Enforcer Enigma. And then once it's written, I will have a better idea about when it's going to come out. Right now, the plan is probably for October, November of next year for that book, unless for some reason I need to bump it forward into the summer. But I tend to bring out the San Andreas books in the fall, so I don't really want to mess with that system. It's kind of working for me, and it's gotten to place, so that's next. That's the Enforcer Enigma. And then I was going to maybe stop the San Andreas books at that, but they're actually starting to get more traction now, and there's only 2, so when 3 comes out, it should get even more traction. And I had the great idea for another one in the series, so with characters who will be introduced in the Enforcer Enigma. So I might write some more. So I was going to stop, and now it seems like I can't. Bella wants to know why I'm bringing out the audio before the digital. Because I have the audio done. That's why. And because it's accepted practice and actually pretty well known with sales numbers that you don't bring out a digital book during the Christmas season. And that's the soonest I could even do it anyway. It just doesn't sell well. Whereas audio is a different game because people will listen to audio while they're, driving places and doing things. Plus, I kind of wanted to give you guys something for Christmas this year, I guess, or for the holidays. And, I have the audio assets and it's ready to go. I just need to figure it out and upload it and get it all settled. Just takes a while. So that's why. Plus, I've never done that before. I've never done an audio first, so I kind of want to see what that's like, too. So, that's why. Just having fun, experimenting. Di wants to know if I have any ideas for pop figures. Uh-oh. I'm not sure if we should end on this one, but, don't tell anybody, especially not in the geek community, but those things freak me out. Way they don't have mouths, like they're dead black button eyes, like, oh my god, they are so scary looking. They're scary looking. Arbitrarily, because I am the goddess of that universe, I will delete posts with dolls in them because they're so creepy. So, sorry. I mean, it's fine if you're into it and that's your thing and you want to collect them, and like a couple people have made their own Alexias, their little pop figure Alexia dolls, but I'm kind of scared of them. Wade wants to know what my funniest book tour story is. Woo! I got a lot of them. They're mostly horror stories, frankly. There's a reason I stopped doing book tours, and that's because they're bonkers. That is a question to ask when I don't have only 7 minutes left in the live. We'll maybe leave that for another time. I gotta think about it. I gotta think about what my funniest one is, because I'm used to the ones that are just straight up crazy. I have had some crazy tour experiences. Michelle wants to know if there's any chance to get more Tristal and fifth gender stuff. So that's one of the ones that I talk about on the post that you can go and vote for if you like. I have had the idea for the mystery, and I definitely could write a sort of a follow-up to the fifth gender. And It would not be a new main character romance thing. It would be Tristal and Dre again together solving a mystery. But it's just one of the options. Sure, I could definitely write it. Crudrat is also something that I could definitely see myself writing more of. Not enough time, not enough me's. I should clone myself so more me's can write more books. Charles Laurent says that music is part of his writing process. Do I have other mediums that inspire me? Does hot water count? I always seem to get inspired in, like, the bathtub or the shower or the hot tub. It's so much so that I have, like, little waterproof notebooks and a pencil, because that's waterproof, that I take with me when I'm gonna go sit in a hot tub or a bath or something, because I always seem to come up with really cool ideas when I'm in hot water. So I guess that's my inspiration is hot water. Any DC or near fans like me? Awesome Con. So DC, Washington DC, is hosting Worldcon, not next year, but the year after. So 2021, Worldcon is in Washington, D.C., and as of now, I am planning to attend that. So I will be in D.C. In not next year, but the year after. I love visiting D.C. The fan base is really good there. They've done some great conventions in the past. So I have faith in the con runners for a Worldcon there. So yeah, so that's my plan. So you will see me in DC in a year and a bit. Oh, well, I guess in about 2 years. Elise wants to know how long my books take me to write from idea to draft. So generally, it depends on the length of the book, but generally speaking, for a regular length book, like say, The Enforcer Enigma, it takes me 4 to 6 months to write it, and then a couple of months to run it through the editing process and get it into production if I'm doing it myself, if I'm producing it myself. And that's assuming that I have a nice clean schedule and everything. Yeah, so it takes from 4 to 8 months from inception to release, usually. Sometimes, yeah. So 4 would be really short and would be something I'm really pushing and writing really fast, and it's probably like a novella length thing. 8 is more like a novel. And that rides on things like if the editor can fit me into their schedule, if the copy editor can fit me into the schedule, how fast my beta readers manage to turn it around, although they're usually pretty good. They're checking for world continuity and timelines and stuff like that. So it's not always, it's rarely, if ever, entirely dependent on me and my writing process. And I am a real rough drafter and then a heavy editor, so it may take me less time to actually put the initial words on the page. You know, it might take me only 2 or 3 months to do that, depending on if I've had a writing retreat or something. Those are always faster. I always write faster on writing retreats. But I have to edit quite a bit. I have to do my own revisions several times before it even goes out to a developmental editor, because it is very rough. Because I struggle to finish if I don't write it as fast as possible, and that means it needs a lot of work at the back end. So I spend as much time revising a manuscript as I do initially writing it, usually. I'm glad a few of you agree with me on the Funko Pop figures. I have to say that I'm also not a big collector of stuff, of figurines in general, or memorabilia. I'm not that kind of geek. My geekdom doesn't go in that direction. Clothing, shoes, absolutely, I collect those sorts of things. But I don't collect inanimate objects all that much. And I wonder sometimes it has something to do with being an archaeologist or an ex-archaeologist. But yeah, I have a lot of books at all times, but that's pretty much the only, like, object I keep around me. I don't have a lot of stuffed animals or creatures or anything like that. I just don't. I mean, I never have. I've never been super into it. Yvette wants to know if I have a favorite character so far. And we're gonna stop the comments asking questions at this juncture because I'm gonna wrap us up soon. You know what? I always say this, and I know it's kind of a cop-out answer, but generally speaking, my favorite book is the book that I have most recently finished, and because it's finished, and that's so satisfying. And my favorite character tends to be the character that I have sort of currently inhabiting their brain. So right now I'm working on Dimity quite a bit, and I forgot how much I loved her. She's just so much fun to write. And her love interest, Crispin, in this book is pretty freaking ballsy too. He's great. Sort of an ex-soldier type. Very, very caring and sweet, and just wants to protect everybody. So yeah, I'm into them at the moment, which doesn't mean much to you. I suppose you know Dimity, but you don't know Dimity grown up. She hasn't changed that much, of course. Dimity, I'm a big fan. But I'm also a big fan of, like, characters that you see reoccurring a lot. I clearly enjoy writing them. So Lord Akaldam is an old favorite of mine. Madame LeFou I'm a huge fan of that character as well, and Vive in her various forms. Yeah, so I definitely have. Percy was so much fun to write, I have to say. See, like, I'm schizophrenic with my characters. I love them all. But Percy was really a joy to write because he's this sort of so awkward. He's just so sweet and so awkward. And I have so much fun with that. Charity says the October Live should be horror stories from book tours. That's a great idea. Oh my god, some of them are so rude though, you guys. Like, I've had some crazy travel experiences. Alright, I think, yeah, I have to say just briefly, because you're dealing with it on the live, and I'm sorry to the YouTube people, but there has been a lot more spam in lives. I don't know what Facebook did, but they did something that caused the spam bots to be able to get into live. So if somebody's spamming the live, just ignore them, and I'll delete the comment later. Charlotte wants to know if I had fun in Denver, and yes, I always have a blast in Denver. Denver is great. But I think Stein wants to know if I have a timeline for events before you write a book. Yeah, I do. But these days I'm more like planning the books, and then if an event falls at the wrong time, I don't take the event. So the opposite has kind of happened, where I'm like, yeah, I really want that block of time to write, so I'm actually not going to travel during these 3 months. Like, for example, I rarely do anything in January or February, just because there aren't a lot of events anyway, but also I just really like those 2 months, or kind of dark, gloomy, rainy months, and it's just perfect for writing. So I just don't do events during times when I know I'm really going to want to focus on writing. So, yay! Alrighty, my dears. I think we can safely shut this one down at this juncture. It has been a joy, as always, to talk to you all, and thank you for tuning in, and thank you for asking fabulous questions. I really appreciate it. If I miss your question, keep it in mind. I'll take it on the next one, I promise. And yeah, I'll definitely try to do a live in October. I'm sure I'll figure something out. And yes, horror stories from bookstores. That'd be really fun. Bookstores and book tours. I can just tell you horror stories. Alrighty, my darlings. I'll see you next time. Bye.